Hi everyone, welcome to Parks and Places Online. I'm Tom, and today we're heading to Grand Tetons National Park. When you visit Tetons, probably for your first time, and you see the mountains rising up from the valley floor, one word that comes to my mind is majestic. Majesty, we worship your majesty. All right, I got that out of my system. But really, the mountains are just such a majestic sight. When you're going to go to other mountains and you drive up into the mountains, you're driving up into them and you're in the mountains before you even realize it. But the Tetons, they rise up from the valley floor. And so you're driving through the flat plain of the valley and then you see the mountains. It truly is a majestic sight. The Tetons are located in Wyoming, just south of Yellowstone National Park. And because it's so close to Yellowstone, I think that it's frequently overlooked because of its big brother to the north. So what we're doing in this video is we're going to count down 10 reasons why you should make Grand Tetons National Park your vacation destination. Reason number 10, Yellowstone. Yes, I am starting out with Yellowstone as a reason for visiting the Tetons. Yellowstone is a beautiful park. It is very unique between Old Faithful Geyser, Mammoth Hot Springs, Morning Glory Pool, Grand Prismatic Springs. All the geothermal features are unique in Yellowstone. And then in Yellowstone is the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone. There's plenty of reasons for visiting Yellowstone, and I encourage you to visit Yellowstone. We frequently, on our way to the Tetons or leaving home from the Tetons, we'll stop in through Yellowstone and see some of our favorite spots, or check out a spot maybe we haven't seen before. So visiting Yellowstone on your way to the Tetons or on your way home from the Tetons is encouraged. Yes, absolutely do that. Number 9, the town of Jackson, Wyoming. There aren't many tourist towns that I would recommend. In fact, I would think of 3. Gatlinburg in Tennessee, Estes Park in Colorado, and Jackson in Wyoming. The town of Jackson is located just south of the park, of Grand Tetons National Park, so its proximity makes it very convenient to go between the park and the town. I realize not everyone likes to camp or has an RV, so if you're staying in a hotel, you have many options in the town of Jackson, and it's really close to the park, so it makes it really easy to get back and forth. The town of Jackson is very cute and quaint, very rustic, but it's also great opportunities for lodging, for food, lots of restaurants, and there's even a playhouse, and there's a museum, and there's other activities that you can schedule from the town. Darlene and I have only been to the Tetons during the summer months, but understand that that area is open year-round and is a huge skiing destination. So if you're going to the mountains there for skiing, then you'd be staying at a lodge probably in Jackson or maybe Teton Village, which is the ski resort just outside of the town. Reason number 8, camping and the weather. I'm actually grouping these 2 things into one because they're so closely related. If you've got great weather, that makes for great camping. Let's be honest, if you have lousy weather, camping can be pretty miserable. The Tetons have great weather. All of the campgrounds and the roadways in the park are located on the east side of the park. And so most of the rain falls in the mountains on the west, and the east side, where the campgrounds and the roadways are, is actually very dry and almost desert-like. It does rain, mind you. When it has rained in the past, we've gotten some beautiful storm pictures, but it doesn't last long, and then the sun comes back out. So it's nice and dry. The weather is warm during the summer months. We've only been there in the summer months. But no matter how warm or hot it might get during the day, it always cools off nice in the evening. So it's really cool for sleeping. Camping options in the Tetons are plentiful. There are, we have camped at 3 different campgrounds. We have camped at Colter Bay Campground, at Signal Mountain Campground, and at Grand Campground. Colter Bay is the one with the most services. So it is located in a village where there's a restaurant, there's a laundromat, there's showers. So if you're looking for those types of conveniences, Colter Bay Campground is probably the one you want to stay at. Signal Mountain is a smaller campground, but the views from the campground looking out over at Jackson Lake and the mountains in the background, the views are best probably at Signal Mountain Campground. But the campground we usually stay at is Grand. Grand Campground is located at the south end of the park, and it's closest to the town of Jackson. It's the largest campground in the park, and hence the one that fills up last. Our style is to do most of our travels without reservations. So we show up, we try to get to our destination in the morning, early morning, like 10 o'clock, and try to get a campsite by then, because by afternoon the campgrounds are going to be filling up. So if you're not traveling with reservations, then probably Grand Campground is where you're going to be. There's private campgrounds outside the park. So around the town of Jackson, there are private campgrounds. So if you want full service, full hookups, or if all the campgrounds in the park are already full, there are private campgrounds, several, outside the park. So there's options for you there as well if you want your full hookups. Reason number 7, the Jackson Hole Aerial Tram. Now there are trams that take you to the top of a mountain, and then there are trams that take you to the top of a mountain. So Rendezvous Mountain in the Tetons it's a very tall mountain. It's part of the Teton Range. I think it's over 10,000 feet high, and it is beautiful. So the tram leaves from Teton Village and it goes to the top of Rendezvous Mountain. From the top of the mountain, you see down into the Jackson Hole Valley. A little bit, maybe sidetrack of what Jackson Hole is. So Jackson Hole is the valley where this town of Jackson is located, the campground, all the roadways of the park, most of the lakes, they're all located in the valley to the east of the mountain range. That valley is named Jackson Hole. So when you take the tram to the top, you look down into the valley, the Jackson Hole Valley, and then you look to the north and you see Grand Teton. And then if you turn to the west, you're looking into Idaho and you see the mountains there. So it's a beautiful view from the top, and it's a nice ride up and back. A couple things to note. One is the weather. So it could be 20 degrees cooler up at the top than it is down when you catch the tram at the bottom. It will be windy. It may be very windy at the top. So if you're taking the tram, even though it might be really hot at the bottom, this is where you're going to want to bring your jackets. So bring your whatever layers you got. So bring your sweater, bring your jacket, bring your raincoat. You can always use that as a windbreaker. So bring all your layers with, because when you get to the top, there's a good chance that you're going to need it. As a second side note, there's no one at the top collecting tickets. So the ride down is free, meaning if you hike to the top of Rendezvous Mountain, well then you can take the tram down for free. What my family and I did is we took the tram to the top with our backpacks. Then we started a hike into the back country, and then we came out through Death Canyon. That was a 3-day hike, and that was really beautiful. Reason number 6, Jackson Lake and Colter Bay. Jackson Lake is the largest lake in the Tetons, and technically it's a reservoir. There is a dam, and then the water let out of the dam becomes the Snake River. More on that to come. Colter Bay is a bay on Jackson Lake. Colter Bay Campground is located in that area as well. So from Colter Bay, there's several nice, short, easy hikes that take you to some beautiful places. Heron Pond is one of my favorite places because it's a nice short hike to a beautiful view. You get a pond with Mount Moran in the background, and you get a nice reflection of the mountain in the water. Colter Bay is also a great place to spot moose. We've even seen moose walking through the parking lot of the restaurant there. Reason number 5 to make Grand Tetons National Park your vacation destination: Signal Mountain. So unlike the Tetons, the Teton Mountain Range, including Rendezvous Mountain, Signal Mountain is a mountain, lowercase mountain, in the middle of Jackson Hole, meaning the valley. So it is the largest mountain in the valley. But what's nice is the view from the top of Signal Mountain gives you an elevated view where you can see Jackson Lake down below and then the mountain range beyond that. There is a road that gets you to the top of Signal Mountain, so you don't have to hike to the top. But do note that you need a car, so motorhomes or anything with a trailer would not be allowed to the top of Signal Mountain. Counting down number 4, Jenny Lake, String Lake, and Lay Lake. These are 3 lakes in a row right next to each other. And it's a complicated area. It involves 2 entrances, a north entrance and a south entrance, a one-way road, but they're not connected. So if you can navigate this whole area without getting lost, you're doing better than me. Entering from the north, North Jenny Lake Junction gets you access to String Lake. String Lake is very appropriately named because it's more of a still, long, narrow river than it is a lake. The walk along String Lake, the whole walk, is a beautiful opportunity. As to make the different turns, you see different viewpoints with the different angles of the mountains in the background. So it's a very pretty walk along String Lake, and then at the end of String Lake is Lay Lake. Lay Lake is another, it's more of a classic lake as far as shape, so the views from Lay Lake are very different from String Lake. The trail continues all along Lay Lake, and then it continues on to Bear Paw and Trapper Lakes, but that's a much more aggressive hike. But the walk along Lay Lake is also beautiful. You don't have to go all the way to the end. You can walk in halfway or so and get nice, beautiful views from Lay Lake. From String Lake, the road continues as a one-way road. And from that one-way road, you get to the infamous Jenny Lake viewpoint. This is the postcard viewpoint. This is probably the most crowded spot in Grand Tetons National Park. You will find tour buses of people here. And if you're here during the peak time of day, it is possible you will not find a place to park. So parking is limited, especially if you're driving around in an RV like we are. Getting there in the morning or very later part of the day would be recommended. After the Jenny Lake viewpoint, the one-way road continues to the Jenny Lake Lodge, and then after that, back to the highway. But you're not done with the area yet because there's the South Jenny Lake Junction. The South Jenny Lake Junction gives you boating opportunities out on Jenny Lake, including taking a boat ride across the lake. This is a very popular spot. It takes you to the trailhead actually on the west side of the lake, on the opposite side of the lake, and then from that trail point, you can hike up to Hidden Falls and Inspiration Point. I'll be honest with you, this is not my favorite part of the park. I kind of find it underwhelming. Hidden Falls is not a spectacular waterfall. Inspiration Point is not that inspiring, and it's very popular, so there tends to be a lot of people there. I think it's popular because I think it's the only waterfall in the park, and it involves a boat ride. So a lot of people do it, but I'll be honest, it's not one that I would recommend. Now, if you disagree with me, that's fine. Please leave your kind comments down below. South Jenny Lake is also where you get the trailhead to Lake Solitude. This is a grueling 15-mile hike, but it gets you to a beautiful alpine lake up in the mountains. Only 3 left. Number 3 is the Snake River. Snake River leaves Jackson Lake and meanders through the park, providing a foreground for beautiful pictures. Oxbow Bend is a beautiful spot right off the road where you can sometimes spot moose, and then you have the river there with the mountains in the background. The Snake River Overlook is another spot, again, right off the road, providing another beautiful foreground with mountains in the back. But the reason I rank the Snake River so close to number one is not just its beauty, but also because of opportunities for going whitewater rafting. Now, if that's not your style, you can take a scenic float trip through where the river is meandering slowly through the park. That provides beautiful views all throughout the ride. But if you're an adrenaline junkie, then going whitewater rafting on Class 4 rapids might be more your style. Now, I have done this 3 times in my life so far, and I love it. There are several outfitters in the town willing to give you a thrill of your life, but understand that they range significantly in price, even though everyone puts you in the river at the same spot and takes you out of the river at the same spot. So everyone is going down the same section of the river, but yet the prices vary significantly. In my opinion, the difference between the expensive places and the cheaper places, the expensive places will pick you up in the town of Jackson, which works out great if you are lodging in the town of Jackson. The cheaper places, you have to drive out to their office, which might be 10 miles outside of town. If you go to a place where you have to drive to their location, be sure to bring some towels with you, because when you get off the raft and you're driving back, you'll be wet. So you're going to probably want to put some towels on the car seats so that you don't get your car seats wet. Reason number 2, the bison at Antelope Flats. Now you can see bison at Yellowstone. You can see them at Custer State Park in South Dakota, Theodore Roosevelt, North Dakota. There's many places that you can see bison. But nowhere other than the Tetons can you see bison with the Tetons as your background. Antelope Flats is an area of the park that is a good opportunity to spot bison. The roads there allow you to get into where the herds might be, and you might even find yourself among a herd of bison. Mormon Row is an area in Antelope Flats with historic buildings. Sometimes the bison are meandering among the buildings, so you can get a picture with the buildings as the foreground, with the mountains in the background, bison as a foreground with the mountains in the background, or the bison among the buildings with the mountains in the background.
Okay, here we have some buffalo. This one's rolling around. These guys over here are making lots of noise. Okay, we're driving right past them on the road. Go slow, Tom. Go slow.
And finally, the number 1 reason for visiting Grand Teton National Park as your vacation destination: the mountains! The splendor and majesty of God's creation. Splendid and majestic is His work, and His righteousness endures forever. Driving through the national park, you see the mountains rising up from the valley floor. It dominates the landscape. The north end of the Teton Range is dominated by Mount Moran, with its distinctive black dike. The southern mountain range has the Grand Teton. That mountain with its neighboring peaks are each shaped like the classic pyramid. Looks like to stand on the top of the mountain you'd have to balance on one foot. Grand Teton is the tallest mountain in the park and the park's namesake. So there you have it. 10 reasons for making Grand Tetons National Park your vacation destination. We hoped you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see other videos like it, please subscribe to the channel and click the notify bell icon next to it. Also check out our interactive map of Grand Tetons National Park. Here you'll see photos of places that we talked about and maybe places that I didn't get to mention.